Place your bets for how many times I'll have to stop recording this to break down and cry. I'm betting it happens 3 times, maybe 4. But Leo McCarey's 1937 film Make Way for Tomorrow is one of the most depressing movies ever made. Out of all the movies in my top 10 of all time, this one is the least popular. And it's not because it's bad. It's got a 4.2 on Letterboxd, it's in the top 250, and it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. But only 22,000 Letterboxd users have seen it. I think it should be mandatory viewing because I think it's life-changing. This movie took me by surprise the first time I saw it. I always knew Leo McCarey as the director of Duck Soup, which I think is the funniest movie ever, and Make Way for Tomorrow is a complete 180. Orson Welles reportedly said this movie could make a stone cry. Ostensibly, McCarey believed this was the best movie he ever made, and when he won the Oscar for The Awful Truth, which came out the same year, during his acceptance speech he said, "Thanks, but you gave it to me for the wrong picture." Make Way for Tomorrow is about an elderly couple, Bark and Lucy, whose home is being foreclosed because Bark is struggling to find work due to his age. And they have 5 adult children. One lives thousands of miles away in California, and their daughter Nell is the only one who has enough space for both parents, but she asks for 3 months to try and talk her husband into letting them stay at their place. So they decide that temporarily Bark will stay with their daughter Cora and Lucy will stay with their son George's family. And over time we see the parents start to get on their children's nerves. The children act like their parents are a burden, and it's really easy to just dismiss it and say the children are terrible people, but McCarey does a great job of showing how it's a difficult situation for everyone involved. And yeah, the children definitely should have more empathy and care more about helping their aging parents, but we also see the way their parents inconvenience them, so we can sympathize with both sides. But the movie is a pretty powerful reminder to not take your parents for granted. Obviously, everyone's relationship with their parents is different, but their children seem to have been raised by loving and supportive parents who did their best to provide for them. And frankly, it just seems like their kids could have done more to help them out. But this movie takes place during the Depression, so times were tough for most people. And throughout all of this, Bark is still trying to find work because he wants to be back with his wife and doesn't want to depend on their kids to support them. And Lucy keeps speaking optimistically about how they'll be reunited when Bark gets a job. This leads to a scene that really stuck with me. Lucy's granddaughter asks why she doesn't face the facts. Bark is old, he's not going to get a job. And Lucy replies, "When you're 17 and the world's beautiful, facing facts is just as slick fun as dancing or going to parties. But when you're 70, well, you don't care about dancing, you don't think about parties anymore. And about the only fun you have left is pretending that there ain't any facts to face. So would you mind if I just went on pretending?" It seems weird that this movie would resonate with me so much since I'm not elderly or married and I don't have children. And I've loved this movie since the first time I saw it, but I saw it for the first time in theaters recently and different aspects of it resonated with me more this time around. Obviously, I've been trying to find work during a time where the economy and the job market are terrible. And I try to be realistic about it, but I'm secretly an optimist. Part of me believed for months that some miracle would happen and my life would end up better than it's ever been before, and I'll look back on this low point and laugh and say it was all worth it in the end. But that was just a fantasy I've been clinging to, and now I have no idea where I'm going to live in a couple months because I'm running out of time. Anyway, spoiler alert. Eventually, George and Cora try to find ways to get their parents out of their homes. When Bark catches a cold, Cora insists that he needs to live in a milder climate, so the plan is for Bark to live with his daughter Addie in California. Meanwhile, George and his wife Anita plan to move Lucy to a retirement home. Lucy accidentally finds out about the plan to send her to a retirement home. Then, when George is about to break the news to her, she interrupts him before he can say anything and claims she wants to go to the retirement home. It's pretty clear she doesn't actually want to, but it was sweet of her to do that instead of putting George in such an awkward position. It's evident that Bark and Lucy know their children see them as a burden and don't want their parents living with them, but it reaches a point where they don't have a choice and they just kind of accept their fate. So once the plans are in motion, before Bark has to board his train to go to California, he and Lucy make plans to spend one final afternoon together before having a farewell dinner with their children. This is where the movie solidifies itself as a masterpiece. If anyone says they don't like this movie, I'm convinced they either weren't paying enough attention or didn't make it far enough into the film. Bark and Lucy have a wonderful time and seem so happy to be reunited. They visit the hotel where they stayed during their honeymoon 50 years ago, and the people there are so kind to them. That's another thing I love about this movie, the way it emphasizes the importance of kindness. The juxtaposition between how their children treat them versus how they're treated by strangers at this hotel is astonishing, and you can see how that kindness affects them. Not only are they happier together, they're happier when people are being nice to them. Also, I feel like this is a weird thing to say because most people think of the child-parent dichotomy when they think of this movie, but I also think this movie is very romantic. The whole sequence of Bark and Lucy together is just one of those moments that makes me believe love is real. They're one of my favorite couples from any movie ever, which makes the ending so much more painful. Bark and Lucy decide to skip the farewell dinner with their kids, and of course the kids are annoyed, not because they don't get to see their parents together one last time, but because it inconveniences them that they prepared a dinner and their parents aren't showing up. Bark and Lucy recall how there have been plenty of times their children didn't show up to dinner, so they don't have to feel bad about saying no. And obviously they want to savor these final moments together. I'm noticing a pattern where a lot of my favorite films involve people who are struggling financially and/or are trying to make the most of what little time they have left. While Bark and Lucy are enjoying themselves, their children reflect and realize that they were pretty terrible to their parents. Then, at the end of the film, Lucy and Bark are at the train station saying goodbye. And at first it's kind of a callback to what Lucy said to her granddaughter about pretending instead of facing facts. Lucy tells Bark to give Addie her love, and he tells her, well, you'll very likely see her soon yourself. I'll get a job out there and I'll send for you right away. And Lucy replies, I don't doubt that, Bark. You'll get a job. Of course you will. And in that moment, you just know they're not going to see each other again, and it's just the most heartbreaking thing. And then they say goodbye for real, but they say it just in case, because you never know, anything can happen. And Lucy tells Bark, I just want to tell you it's been lovely, every bit of it, the whole 50 years. I'd sooner have been your wife, Bark, than anyone else on earth. The love they have for each other is just beautiful, and I love the way they make the most of that final day together. So yeah, it's a devastating, heartbreaking film, but I think it's an important one.